If I asked you who Cupid was, your first thoughts would probably turn towards a chubby baby with wings, shooting people with hearts. You also probably associate him very closely with Valentine's Day. But in reality, the mythology surrounding Cupid is much more than just being on chocolate wrappers. Join Sophia and I as we travel into the myths of Cupid, his own love story, and who Cupid and Eros really were. So hop into our morbid time machine and let's get into it.
Welcome, inquirers, new and old. Have you ever wanted to go down a rabbit hole of morbid history, but you don't know where to start?
Then you are in the right place. Our Grim Past is a podcast where each week we explore messed up history.
From shipwrecks and spooky places to morally questionable people and practices, we're Sophia
and Maia.
Join us in our morbid time machine
and let's discuss history's most fucked up.
Hey, Maia.
Hi, Sophia.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. The new semester is semestering.
Yep.
So I'm a bit behind on some things, and I apologize to anyone who's eagerly awaiting an Instagram post. Hopefully this weekend you'll have 3 new ones. So sorry, you guys. How have you been, Sophia?
Been pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, Valentine's Day is coming up.
It is coming up, end of the week.
Yep. Still a single little Pringle.
It's okay.
Yeah. But no, I have an interesting little Valentine story to share.
I want to hear it. Sophia wouldn't give me spoilers today, you guys. Yeah. So I just had to wait.
Yeah. Okay, so go back 5 years. 8th grade, little Sophie.
Little Sophie.
We had so it was the day before Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Valentine's Day was also on a Friday that year.
Okay.
And we had a late start because, the snow was really bad. Snow.
I miss you, snow.
And I was the whole day I was kind of feeling off. And I was it's probably just hormonal. And so I went through the day. Well, then I didn't eat dinner that night because I was just in so much pain. So we went to the hospital.
Okay.
And they're like, oh yeah, no, you're fine. It's just cramps. You're fine. You're fine. My mom, love her. Love you, Mom. Did push and was like, no, this is not normal.
Yeah.
Figure it out. So got my CT scan, was super nauseous the whole time. Nurse comes back in and was like, hey, we're actually going to have to move you to the hospital. Or not the nurse, the doctor, the one who the whole time was like, it's just cramps, you're fine. Came in, refused to make eye contact with either me or my mom. And was like, hey, so we're going to have to actually move you to downtown because we can't admit anyone under the age of 16 here. And so we're calling an ambulance to get you transported over there.
What was it?
And then she left.
What?
Yeah. So then the triage nurse came in. He was amazing. Super sweet guy. And we're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, they didn't tell you. You have appendicitis and need to get your appendix taken out.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Can you report that doctor?
Probably.
Oh my God.
I was like, huh?
Yeah, I'd be embarrassed too if I was like, oh, it's just cramps and then she's appendicitis.
That can kill you. Yeah. So they're like, that was crazy. Well, then the ambulance gets there and the ambulance driver, low-key, looked like Freddie Mercury.
Oh my God, seriously?
And I don't know if it was because, I was on pain meds because I was in so much pain or what. He looked like Freddie Mercury. The gal who was riding in the back with me was super sweet. She showed me pictures of her cat and she had a cat wheel. We were just chatting. I was like, yeah, I want a cat, but I can't. My dad's allergic. But, so, by this point, it's 1 a.m. by the time we get downtown and into the pediatric unit.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom drove separately because she ran home to get stuff for herself and stuff for me and whatnot. And so she gets there and I nudge her. I'm like, Mom, didn't that ambulance driver really look like Freddie Mercury? And she just started laughing. I was like, she looks like Freddie Mercury. I'm not crazy. So yeah, still don't know to this day whether or not he actually looked like Freddie Mercury or if I was just so tired and out of it. So then on Valentine's Day the next morning, 8 a.m., got my appendix taken out. It was great way to spend Valentine's Day. I spent that entire weekend in the hospital. And then that Tuesday, I had state science fair. Won first place in my division.
Oh my God.
Went on to state. but I couldn't go to state because of COVID.
Okay, that happened to me too. Yes, because I won too.
Wait, what was your division?
I don't know. I was in earth science.
Oh, okay. I was the one who did the one about the cleaning products.
Oh, bad.
Yeah, which was like perfect timing. I was first place in life science, I think. Yeah.
I did mine. It was just like multiple year project that I did for every science fair. It was like I would grow like just like lemongrass, but I would use different types of like I used like Miracle Grow on one, or like like natural fertilizer that I made, or like just water.
Yeah.
And like different sunlight, and I would measure it. And then I did a cross contamination thing, looking at if things would be worse if you added like 2 fertilizers compared to 1 and stuff like that. And I like actually did it pretty well. I don't really remember what I was doing. I kind of just did whatever I wanted to do, because my middle school, I didn't do whatever I wanted to do, you guys. Like, I tried, but my middle school teacher, she had like artificial light things in her classroom.
Cool.
And so I could grow the grass there, and it was like dead of winter.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
Mine was cleaning product. So mine was which cleaning product gets rid of the most germs. So I had the little petri dishes.
Everything says like 99.9%.
Yeah. I was like, so Clorox is a great one.
Hype it up.
But if you want like a more natural version, Thieves, like the essential oil Thieves, works really well, especially when it's paired with like microfiber cloths.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of. I don't know if I got into this for a grave robbing episode, but like Thieves is the essential oil that grave robbers would like put on their masks, so then they wouldn't smell like dead bodies. But it also is like an antimicrobial or whatever, bacterial, whatever. So yeah, no, I have like my little thing of Thieves whenever it's like 6 season.
It's a wheel.
Yeah, no, love it. So we found that. And then that summer, I was also supposed to go to science camp, but that got canceled because of COVID too.
Yeah, I was going to go to my normal camp, like when I was still camper at the one I work at, and like it got canceled. I remember literally sobbing.
I was so mad.
I was so sad.
No, I was very angry about that. I'm still a little salty about 8th grade science fair and 8th grade science camp.
I am too, because I literally was like, I'm going to eat upstate.
Yes.
Or what?
It would have been state.
It would have been state or else.
It would have been state.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was so mad. Yeah. No. Still a little salty about that. But I won. I was here. I'm pretty sure I have a picture. I was like 4 days post-op. It was the thing. Well, and then the other thing too was the pain meds they were giving me after like they took me off the morphine were making me sick. And instead of, trying a different medication, they were just like, here, have some anti-nausea medication. It's like, my darlings, that's not the issue. The issue is the medication you're giving me is making me sick.
Yeah.
Maybe try something else. Well, and then they had to use, so I'm allergic to amoxicillin, and they had to use a penicillin-based antibiotic. So then my appendix wouldn't burst during the night.
Yeah.
And I was like, and they're like, we're just going to monitor you and hope that you don't have an allergic reaction. I was like, what is going on?
This is strange.
Yeah. No, it was so weird, but it also like felt so thick through the IV. It just hurt.
Ow.
Yeah.
Should we get to starting?
Yes. I'm just gonna see if I can't find this picture. I don't know if I have the picture or if someone else does. Okay, so there's me in the bed.
Oh, hype it up.
There's me post-op.
Oh, little Sophie.
And then I was cracking up because my Oma got me a Twinkie. Like, that, she just gave me a Twinkie because it was actually kind of sweet. She was like, yeah, no, whenever, so, more Sophie lore. My papa, my mom's dad, passed away from cancer when I was little. But no, whenever he was in the hospital for, like, his chemo, he'd always get a Twinkie. So my mom was like, here, have a Twinkie. It's like, well, thanks, Oma. So that was the first and last time I've ever had a Twinkie. Not my fave. Gotta be honest.
Yeah.
Hot take.
It's not. And I don't like them that much either.
Yeah.
Making each other yawn. Okay, so
not a psycho.
What?
Have you?
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I think we've talked about this on here. Okay.
Probably.
So, you guys, I know I said Cupid, but if you listen to the intro, I also said the word Eros. Eros?
Is it Eros or Eros?
I think it's Eros, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm going to call him that, and if you guys were like, you suck, Maya, it's different, then...
Don't be a bully.
I'll cry about it.
Don't be a bully.
So, basically, if you don't know, there was, like, the ancient Greeks, right? They lived around for quite a little bit of time, and they had their own gods, own mythology, right? And then they like migrated over yonder, and then the Romans popped up. Easiest way to say all of this, I guess.
Over yonder.
And the Romans were like, your gods are pretty cool. We're going to take them and rename them. It's basically what happened. It's slightly different. It's basically like the same, guys. But there's different names. So Cupid is the one you guys are probably more familiar with. And he is the Roman version.
Oh.
I know.
I think he was Greek.
And Eros. I'm calling him Eros. I don't know. I'll do both. He's the Greek version. So he was the first version around. And he is really interesting because he does not have a solid creation story.
Oh.
It's like he has like a mystery of his birth.
Oh.
So there's like so many different versions of it. A very, very common one is that he is the child. Well, he would be an illegitimate child technically because Aphrodite was married, but she didn't like her husband. Anyway, that's a different problem. But it's told that he is the son of the god of war Eros and the goddess of beauty, Aphrodite.
That's the version I've heard.
Yes. So that's a really, really common one, especially for the big story I'm going to tell, is that he is her son. But there are also records of like Greek historian type people saying that he was there for when Aphrodite came out of the ocean.
Aphrodite came out of the ocean?
Oh, so more background lore. So Aphrodite, oh my god. Okay, so how do I explain this? So before the gods, there were
the Titans.
Yes.
Or are we talking about pre-Titans?
No, kind of. So way before. Actually, I'll say this one first. Before there's anything, there's just chaos. Chaos in the world. That's the Greek and Roman creation story. And then out of chaos came like earth and sky. And that was Gaia and Ouranos. And then they had children.
Is that the Greek or the Roman?
Both of the creation stories are this, I think, or their names are this. No, wait. Ouranos is the Greek, and then the Roman one is like Uranus.
Uranus?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think Ouranos is I might be wrong, you guys. See, like, look how quiet it anyway. The mics, I feel like the mics are being weird, but maybe
I think the mics might be dying a little bit. Yeah, no,
mine's
definitely quiet.
Should I just speak like this? Into it like this?
Yeah, you could do that.
Okay, you guys, I'm gonna have to speak really close. These two people, Earth and Sky, they're like, yippee, let's have children, right? And then they have kids, and Ouranos is like those. Well, actually, there's three of them. There's those two, and then there's Tartarus, who is the Sky's. I guess he's separate being. He might be his brother. And then they have kids, and Ouranos is like, those are low-key uggo, and then throws them into Tartarus.
Damn.
And then,
which that's like the underworld, right?
Yeah, it's like the way deep underworld, because there's the underworld that Hades later moves over, which is like the upper underworld, and then Tartarus is like way deep down under, which is so. And also out of chaos was born Night. She's Night, and she gave birth to her daughter.
Okay, so Night and Day aren't like
they're not siblings. Day is her daughter, and it's
and she isn't. Wow, Maya.
So there's like anyway, it's chaos, and then out of that came like night and dark. Anyway, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening. So in the beginning, there was chaos, and then out of that came multiple things. And one of Cupid's
stories turned off.
It did. No, look, it's speaking.
That's into mine.
Oh, sorry. Okay. One of his stories is that he came out of chaos too, and so he would be a primordial god,
Okay.
or whatever it's called. I'm going in circles here, but that's one. And back to the other story. Sorry, you guys. This is like my my niche subject, but he say this. Okay. So they had kids. He's like, those are ugly, right? Tosses them. And then the Titans come around. And he's like, those aren't that ugly, right? And then they rule over the world, right? And
wait. Where did the Titans come
Gaia and Oranos has kids and it's the Titans. And Oranos is like, these aren't as ugly. I'm going to let them live. And Gaia's like, I still hate you for throwing all my other kids away. And so then she gets 4 of her sons to chop up their father and kill him. So there's a lot of that in mythology. And so basically his like blood runs around, and that's why the sky isn't like a being anymore. And then Gaia went into the ground and just like went to sleepy bye. So his blood, he's out there, right? It's out there. And guess what? It seeps into the ocean and just kind of like chills there for a while until way later after Zeus takes over Kronos and they establish the pantheon. And then Aphrodite's like, I'm going to come into existence. And then from sea foam and his blood, she whirls herself together and kablam, comes out.
Huh. Is that one picture where it's like she's on the seashell and it's like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that. And she actually met the seasons. There's 3 seasons. She met them and then they were like, helped her be pretty. I don't know. It's this whole thing. If you guys want more of this, just let me know. But so there's that one. So there's one where he's older than her and greets her. And then there's one where he's her son. And then there's also one where he's the son of night.
Oh, so like the sister of day or the brother of day?
Yeah, that would be it. But Night has a lot of kids, but most of them are monster type beat kids. And then also one of like the rainbow goddess and Zephyr, who is a wind god of the West.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like, who was he really? But he is always depicted like as a younger man who has a bow and arrow. He was very skilled with it and he was around before Apollo, but Apollo was like kablam kapow with his arrow. But he actually, this will be my later story, but Apollo gets a little bit of karma for dissing on Eros. All right, so I gave you some crazy roundabout background to who he is, but Cupid was always seen as a lesser god, even though he's very powerful, just because he didn't like take over anything really. So this story I'm going to tell you is a story of him and his wife Psyche, who originally was a human. And for this one, I'm going off of the premise that he is Aphrodite's son. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to tell it from what I remember the story to be, and that might be slightly off because guess what? Mythology is a lot of different in a lot of different places. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So here is Psyche. She is a gorgeous human girl. She's really, really pretty. She has 2 other sisters. She's the youngest. And everyone just loves her in the village because she's really pretty. And they like her more than her sisters because her sisters kind of have really bad personalities. And since they're not as pretty as Psyche, they bully her a lot.
Oh, that's sad.
She still loves them though because they're her family, but they bully her a bunch because they're jealous. And it's kind of upsetting that that's all that they meant to be in the story, but that's what happens. They're like super duper evil though. And so her dad is like, let's go. I'm going to make bank because a bunch of people are going to want to marry Psyche because she's so pretty. But guess what? Both of her sisters get married off and they have husbands, they have kids, and Psyche still hasn't gotten married. She's no marriage offers. And he's like, what is happening? And he goes to ask people and he's like, I know you're in love with my daughter. Why don't you ask to marry her? And they're like, I'm not good enough for her. Like, she is just so gorgina that I, as a little ugly man, cannot like compare to her. And her dad's like, what the freak, Psyche? Why are you so pretty? And she's like, my bad, dad. And so her sisters are like bullying her, like, oh my God, you can't get a husband. Maybe you're actually like super ugly. Imagine not having a husband. I'm so rich. I'm so cool. And Psyche's kind of like, well, gosh darn you guys. And so she's just wandering around one day. Cupid's flying around looking at people shoot. And he's like, look at her. She's really pretty. I like her. And he sees Psyche and he like falls in love like bam. Which is interesting because he's the god of love. And he just like fell in love, which is really cool. And so he tells, I think, so Zephyr is one of his servants. So that's why it's interesting that one of the stories about him is that he's his dad. But anyway, he tells one of the wind gods, he's like, yo, go pick up that chick for me. Not actually. That's not actually what he said. I doubt.
Paraphrased.
Yeah. For modern context. And so the wind god brings her up to the top of a mountain, like a cliff, and says, like, my lord is in love with you. He would like to meet you. All you have to do is you have to step off this cliff and trust me. She's like, okay, I guess. And so she does because she's like curious about him.
Yeah.
And they float up into the sky into a castle in the clouds.
Ooh.
She's like, this is a banger. And she wanders around and they're like, he's so in love with you, trust. And she's like, okay, where is he? Can I meet him? And they're like, no, you can't. And so you have to wait till night. So she's like, all right, I'm already in the castle in the sky. And so she waits till night and he comes down and he's like, you can't have any candles on and like gets rid of all light sources. She's like, well, now I'm blind. And he talks to her and she's like, I like your voice. And he's like, thanks. And he expresses that he's like in love with her. Aww. And she's like, oh, that's so cute. And so they talk and stuff and they fall in love. And she ends up living in his cool castle in the sky. But he only ever comes by at night. So they'll talk and stuff at night and then they'll go to sleep. Right? And I don't know. Anyway. But she is super happy. They're like married. And she's living her best life. Psyche's finally happy. And then she goes back down to the ground one day to visit her fam. And she sees her sisters. And she's like, L for you guys. I'm married like a god probably. Or something. And I have a castle in the sky. And he's super rich. Look at this really cool dress he bought me. And they're really jealous because they thought they were better than her now. And so they go, I bet he isn't a god or a spirit. I bet he's a demon that's gonna like kill you at night. And she's like, no, he's not. He's really nice. And they start like manipulating her. And so now she has this like doubt in her mind. Who is my husband really? She asks him and he won't tell her. And so she goes back to her sisters and she's like, what do I do? And they go, well, since he doesn't allow any light just while he's sleeping, put a little candle on and look at it. She's like, oh, that sounds a good idea. But he specifically told her not to do that. And she does. And so she lights her candle and she puts it over him while he's sleeping and looks at him. And she's like, he's really hot. Oh my God. She falls in love. Well, she's already in love. But she's like, whoa, he looks nice. I explained that too much. But anyway. And then she goes, what's that on his back? Those are wings. And then he wakes up and he turns at her and like he screams like, oh my God. She's like, oh my God, he woke up. And then, this is the important part, you guys, the wax of the candle melts off the candle and lands on his back and starts burning him. And he's like, oh my God. And since she saw his face, she gets like kicked out of the castle, like flown out. Like automatically. And he is just like left there like screaming in pain. And his mom Aphrodite comes down and she's like, I told you that would happen if you fall in love with a human. And he was like just screaming his head off. And she tries to cure him and nothing is working. No medicine of the gods is helping. Nothing is working to stop his back from burning. He's in pain, screaming all night and day. It's crazy. And she's worried he's going to die. And there's this weird thing of how gods die, but it's basically he would be in eternal pain. Mm-hmm. And Psyche is just out here on the earth trying to find a way back. And the thing is, Psyche's pregnant now. So she really wants to find her husband and talk to him. And she ends up meeting Aphrodite. And Aphrodite's like, I'm not going to let you meet my son. You're the reason that he's like this. And she pleads with Aphrodite to let her meet her husband. And Aphrodite tells her that if she passes her trials, then she will let Psyche see her husband again. And Psyche's like, okay, let's do it. And Aphrodite wants her to fail. Aphrodite hates Psyche because, I don't know, Freud or whatever. So she tells Psyche to take these makeup products down to the underworld to Persephone for her. And Psyche's like, okay, bet. So Aphrodite sends a 7-month pregnant woman on a journey across the world into the underworld carrying this makeup. And the thing is, it's poisonous to humans. Like, if she even touched it, she would die. Which is what Aphrodite was hoping to happen. But Psyche doesn't do it. She doesn't open it at all. Like, Pandora learned from her. And she takes it down to Persephone. And then she comes back up. So she's one of only few humans who have gone to the underworld alive.
Yeah.
It's like her and
Orpheus,
and there might be one more. But mainly, those two. And she comes back up and she tells Aphrodite. And Aphrodite's like, well, I guess I have to let you meet him now. And so she does, and she kisses him or something, and then his pain goes away. And it was the pain of love that got him. And then she becomes a goddess, and she gives birth, and her child is a minor. I don't remember what she becomes.
Her child is a minor?
No, minor god. Minor god. I'm sorry, you guys. I stopped in the middle of my words. Yeah. Okay. The little fun revenge part, though, is Psyche goes back down to Earth to talk to her sisters. And she's like, oh my god, you guys, you were so right for telling me that. He was a god, and this is what I did to get him to notice me. She's like, I went up to the cliff and yelled I'll be your wife, and jumped off. And they're like, oh my god, wait, I want to be the wife of God. So at different times, both of them go and they run to the cliff and they're like, let me be your wife, and jump off, and they die.
Damn.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the story of Cupid and Psyche. And it's actually really pretty because it's one of the few love stories that end up well for the couple.
Yeah, very sweet.
Very nice.
So what we learned today is Cupid is not just a naked baby.
Yeah. And so then background for that is that, so Eros was Greek, and then the Roman version is Cupid, and the Roman version is he's depicted more as a child, and then, I don't even know what I'm saying, but basically in Western art, he's depicted more as a child, which then, a winged child, which becomes just really popular, and then he becomes associated with Valentine's Day, and
how did that happen?
Because he's the god of love, and Valentine's Day is you give to your loved ones. Yeah. So, what I was gonna do, if I have time for another little story.
How long is your little story?
My little story is gonna be 5 minutes. Tries.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So, as I mentioned before, Apollo was also a god who used a bow and arrow. And Apollo is kind of full of himself, and you can see that through a lot of his stories. Rightfully so, though, because he was a really good archer. But he made fun. So, his bow was bigger and looked more strong than Eros' bow. So, he was like, you loser, I'm cooler. My arrows can cause famine and diseases across the land, and all you can do is hit people and make them have a little crush. And Eros is like, you better take that back, buddy boy. And he's like, I don't want to. And then goes about his day thinking he's the coolest thing ever. So Eros is like, I'm gonna prank this little guy because he was mean to me. And while Apollo is walking around minding his own business, Eros shoots him with an arrow, and he sets his eyes on a wood nymph.
Oh.
And he's like, bro, I'm so in love with you, girl. Please let me marry you. And Apollo is notoriously he's unmarried because he just liked to date around. He was like, please let me marry you. And she's like, I don't want to marry God. And he's like, please. And she's like, no. And runs from him. And he runs after her because he's like, I'm just literally in love with you. Marry me. And she's like, no. And he chases her to the ends of the earth because he's in love with her, and all he wants is for her to recognize him. And she really does not want to marry him. She really does not like him. And she gets to a cliff, and she realizes she's cornered by him. And she prays to Gaia, and she's like, please, great Mother Earth, get rid of him. And instead of doing that, she turns her into a tree.
Oh.
And guess what this nymph's name was?
What?
Laurel.
Oh.
And so she gets turned into a laurel tree. And he is so heartbroken over this that he makes a wreath from a laurel tree's leaves.
Yeah.
And that becomes known as the Wreath of Champions.
Oh.
So when you would like win the Olympics and stuff, you would get a laurel wreath.
Yeah.
And that's where that started from.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just one of my little stories. You guys, I have so many cooked. So many. So yeah, I guess I should end it there. But the story of Cupid and Eros is really interesting. And I feel like this can be a good little start to you guys if you want to go on your mythology kick. Wikipedia is an alright source for this and stuff. I know people like this on Wikipedia, but since mythology is so different throughout different stories, it's pretty chill.
Yeah, well, that was interesting.
Isn't it?
All right, so that's all we have for Cupid. Join us next week as we delve a little bit back into our little vampires and we talk about Mercy Brown. Stay curious. See you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. As always, all sources will be listed in the show notes below.
Be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out on our upcoming discussions. Join us next week as we delve into the intriguing depths of our grim past.
Stay curious. There's so much more to uncover.